Well, hello, that's me again, and today is April 5th, and I want to give some brief facts, so to speak, about Ukraine, which are beginning to kind of trickle down. And one of them is very interesting. There was another 30 people from Vasu and basically surrendering today to one of the units of Russian troops. And there are other surrenders, but it is well-known fact now, in fact it was confirmed, that Nazi org, such as Azov and their fanatical Nazis, they use this ratio, which is 1 to 10. Basically, they have one Azov fanatic among 10 Vasu soldiers, which is supposed to prevent them from surrendering. Because most of them, obviously, and especially the ones which are left in basically Azov-style plant, they know their fate. And it's not a good fate. They will be annihilated, and that is why actually there are many civilians which Azov and those Nazi Yukis who are admired by the Western world took with them. So the practice of using human shields continues, and evidently, I don't know, people, you have to ask yourself who were those advisors, wink wink, who actually suggested this type of the tactics. But something reminds me about there is a country out there, actually a couple of them, which are to the west of Europe, and you might figure it out who would have come up with this kind of tactics, so to speak. So it is a complete disgrace, obviously, but yeah, we will see all those facts, although we're already seeing them, once the war crimes tribunals begin to function. But it is just one of the things which is happening there. And basically, again, Russians give them time after time humanitarian corridors in terms of especially releasing civilians. Even to the point of saying, okay, we'll save your life, we'll let you go into Kiev, just release people, we will do that. They will not do that. They know they will be caught again, and it's the way it goes. In fact, there are actually known facts of Azov and other Nazi units actually compile the lists who goes first through humanitarian corridors, and again, practice of pretending to be civilians, hiding behind civilians, and even dressing in the women's clothes is now really widespread. So that's what I wanted to say. So, and yeah, it just tells you pretty much of everything you need to know about modern Western mainstream media, and we shouldn't be discussing this anymore, because it's pretty much clear for anybody who have a half brain, basically, to see what is going on. And now, obviously, as we all know, Russia loses so badly that basically, well, yeah, we know that. So it's just the way it is. I mean, you cannot kill narrative in the West, and especially mainstream media, because they are not journalists. And as this French press girl, who is a famous journalist, I don't remember her name, she exploded yesterday, I believe, you can find it on YouTube, that she says, yeah, journalism profession is worse than whore. I agree, prostitutes, you pay money, they deliver services, okay? I mean, whatever the services are, they work hard for the money. Western journalism, so to speak, 99% of it is basically a collection of the ignoramuses and badly educated people who will do whatever they will be told to do, and if they need to, you know, as I already stated, to support or whitewash pedophiles, they will do it, you know, Nazis, they will do it, you know, so it's just the way it is. So those people don't have consciousness, they don't have morality, they don't know right from wrong, and that's what you would expect. And here comes the main issue I wanted, not only I wanted, we need to talk about, because this is important. And I will start with this thing. It's and again, this is this website of oil price, which is the same pretty much BS, conveying mostly crap, being a news aggregator also from all kinds of the Economist, the Wall Street Journal, and other people who are absolutely incompetent in pretty much anything except for typing words on the computer. But here it is. A very interesting news, which, for example, Russians know. Russians have the access to, like Western people, to access to any kind of media. And although they, for example, BBC is basically have been thrown out of Russia, the Russians still can get access to it. They can read it, so it's not that big of a deal. But here it is. EU pleads for less energy use as energy crisis intensifies. Turning down the thermostat by just 1 or 2 degrees Celsius could save some 10% of the energy that EU imports from Russia. The Financial Times reported in the latest sign that European governments are hard at work encouraging people to reduce their energy consumption. Well, the situation is much more serious than just merely a reduction of the energy consumption, like stopping showering and basically not cooking properly. So it's just the start. It's a warm-up. And here's the deal. Unlike the United States, which really has its own energy, and it's, it's doing okay in this respect, despite the fact that fuel prices are astronomical, and obviously Biden administration now releases 1 million barrels per day, I believe, of oil or crude, to make sure that the prices are kind of maintained on barely acceptable level. But I mean, in Los Angeles, there are some places where you pay now almost $9 per gallon. And obviously now the €2 for a liter in Europe is not something extraordinary. Many places, sell it, which is horrendous, basically. And you cannot exist, the economy cannot subsist on that, including agriculture. And now we have this situation that people ask, but Putin is Germanophile, and does Putin still want to save Europe? And people make this conclusion based on the simple fact that Putin, basically, not Putin, really collective Putin, Vladimir Putin is not the only guy who makes a decision. There's a whole team of people. Some of them are extraordinarily competent and smart and, really good. And when they say, instead of direct payment for the rubles, they offer this intermediate step like the organizations in EU which trade with Russia, and for Russian energy, they open, as everybody knows already, they open the hard currency euro or dollar account in the Gazprom bank, which is not sanctioned yet. And then they transfer money there, and then Russians do it themselves. They convert them to rubles, and whatever happens, I mean, it's none of the Europe's business really anymore. Once the money converted to rubles and they are on the Gazprom's ruble accounts, the gas is released, it's Europe's, And of course, we all know that many, not all, I don't want to be, doing the kind of strokes with the broad brush, so to speak, or do the blanket generalizations, but many people in Europe, in Germany, in France, and among elites especially, they do consider Russians some humans still. So, and, the old habits die hard, and we can see now what Europe looks like, and especially its modern elites. But the point is, of course, for them, even that kind of sort of face-saving thing is humiliation beyond their, just absolutely wildest imagination. And so, as I already stated, well, too bad. If they want to, they can do it. If they don't, well, guess what? They're not gonna get it. And obviously, as you know, and I wrote in my blog, that basically all subsidiaries which were conditioned by the third energy package of European Commission, actually, for those energy companies like Gazprom Germany, or what, Rosneft and all that, they are not, they do not belong anymore to Gazprom or Rosneft. Russians left them. I mean, so if Germany, for example, or France want to nationalize those assets, sure, they can nationalize them, but fact is, the contracts have been between Gazprom and their subsidiaries, former subsidiaries. So the addendum or writing of the contracts really is in store now for Europeans, and those will be obviously done on the new conditions. And here is the thing: people think, oh, Putin still wants to preserve probably, Europeans, and somehow give them way out. I would disagree on that, despite the fact that Putin is a very reasonable guy, and he's certainly Germanophile. He's a very educated man. He knows Germany. He has many German friends. I mean, and in this particular case, you can understand that, yeah, there are some probably, inclinations, or you can say, oh, yeah, this or that fact testifies to Putin's desire, to do something good for Europe and preserve it from being basically raped and pillaged by the United States. And that's what is happening right now. But I don't think so it rings true anymore. I think so that if Russia would have gone, as many thought, and how the way the whole provocation and false flag in Ukraine was conceived, that Russia will go and just deal with the VSU, Ukrainian Armed Forces, on the borders of present, which used to be, they're not present anymore, they're expanding back to their administrative borders. But if Russia would support LDNR with respect to their present at that time borders, then yeah, you get the all those necessary moral, so to speak, quote unquote, and legal leverage, and there you go, and Putin would do this because he didn't want to lose the European market and things of this nature. So that kind of considerations, and in some sense they were reasonable. The problem, of course, as always, they didn't expect Russia to go for the jugular and actually starting to deal with the whole Ukraine. And believe me, this is just the start. It's a warm-up. And this is what actually, starting from November and especially December, Russian, so to speak, ultimatum, which was ultimatum, they didn't take it seriously at that time. Well, sort of, kind of, they thought they are smarter. Well, they are not. And what we have today, that you have to understand, the thing which, and the point which I try to press or to deliver across, that the decision on West in general has been made in Kremlin. And not only Kremlin, and the reason Putin is so successful, and for all her problems, make no mistake, Russia has a lot of problems. Russia was so successful under conditions which other nations would simply buckle, collapse. It's precisely the case because Russians don't like West anymore. The good old times when Russians admired West in Soviet times in the 80s, and all that, they are gone. They're really not there anymore, even among the youth, which many people still think that, oh yeah, youth, at least they're so dumb, as any youth pretty much is. Let's face it, that's the way it is. When you're 18 or 20, you're not very smart. And but even that is not the fact. In fact, the growth of Putin's support and support for the military operation in Ukraine is colossal. I mean, it's above 80%. And yeah, what do you think happens there? Well, very simple. Russians don't like West anymore. In fact, a large portion of Russians have a huge contempt to the West. Some hate it outright. And when you have this, guess what? Putin, for all his being reasonable and trying to talk calmly, and he most of the time talks very calm and, almost laid back, in some sense, he cannot go against that. And he needs to kind of respect the people who vote him time after time into the office, and he knows that. His power base are Russian people, majority, overwhelming majority of them. And in this particular case, Russians do not want to deal with the West. They don't want anything from the West. They don't want United States. They don't want those people in their lives, really. And again, once Russia was basically revealed what it is today, you know, that small country with the economy smaller than Netherlands or Spain, whose only single move about the ruble, establishment of the ruble as the payment for gas, created a mayhem, I mean global one. And this is just the start. You have to understand that, of course, the crude or oil ruble is coming, then metal ruble is coming, the resources ruble is coming, and golden ruble is coming. And it's just basically the, and again, if you look at what is happening economically in Europe, it's just the start, and that's the thing. Now, even if Russia wanted to, she cannot do anything about it, because the problems in the Europe are systemic. They are with the elites, they are with the absolutely homicidal and suicidal economic policies, and nothing can change that. And for all good poll numbers, for example, that some number of Germans or some number of French do not necessarily hate Russians outright, let's face the fact. People deserve governments they elect. So, and Germans were satisfied with Merkel, who was destroying basically their relations with Russia, you know, and now they elected Olaf Scholz, and this cabal basically of incompetent people, you know, the people with degrees in philosophy or journalism or what have you. It's just ridiculous. And they think that they can run the country. Really? Well, Germany needs a wake-up call. But Germany already is waking up, because actually United States is basically going to own Germany. And hey, as I already stated, you can go back a couple of months of my videos, and I'll say, as much as this plan probably will fail in the end because of the diminishing returns, truth is, it's workable in a sense that it will basically prolong agony of the United States. Because United States gonna squeeze and eat Germany first, and then you will fold. French are nobodies anymore, you know. So I understand it's not pleasant to listen to this, but truth is, and suddenly it turns out that you know, proverbial and fabled, you know, and extolled French nuclear energy production, actually nowadays, I believe the last number was it barely produces about 50% of the supply. After that, I mean, come on, Europe doesn't have any serious resources. It's just the way it is. And of course, Europe is killing its relations with Russia on the orders from the United States. But United States will deal with Russia on a completely different basis. And fact is, that's the whole point. When you get a bunch of the tabakis, when you got a bunch of smallish jackals or poodles who run around, they still think that they are that important. But reality is that for all this, you know, sentimental value of those European stones and everything, Germany on itself doesn't mean that much. Neither does France, even with its nuclear deterrent and everything. It is dwarfed economically by United States. They are dwarfed separately economically by Russia. They are certainly dwarfed economically by China and India. And there you go. Once you begin to count real things, intangibles, then the question is, okay, yeah, this famous, wonderful, you know, market in the Europe where people actually could afford things and they could pay things. It's over. People don't understand this, and the energy prices will drive everything, and it's already driving everything in terms of living standards, I mean, and payment for any decent living standard in Europe, and social stratification is already there. And you will see more of it up until it hits economic, not only disparity, it will be desperation. And when people say that, oh my God, you know, we can have the, like, you know, captains of the chemical industry in Germany, they say that, oh, we're going to have the crisis is similar to what was in 1945. Oh, yes. And probably even worse, because in 1945, at least there were attempts. Russians were trying to rebuild and help, Eastern Germany, and there was Marshall Plan and all that. So today there's nothing like that. United States wants to also prolong its own agony, and it's agonizing because obviously it is being guided, so to speak, by totally incompetent administration. But again, I don't remember any competent administration on my memory, and and there you go. And we will have serious economic, need in Europe already, which is already manifesting itself, and it's going to get much more worse, much worse. There will be many, many poor people, and there could be the situation with the food shortages. And it's not like, oh yeah, I'm scaring you. No, it was predicted. I wrote about this for many years. Dmitry Orlov wrote about this for many years. Many other people wrote about this. People still think that Europe is such an attractive thing. I mean, come on, it's not exactly the case anymore. And yeah, there are some beautiful places there, but again, it's basically a graveyard. Beautiful stones of once great civilization. Today, you cannot even call that what is happening in Europe, and you cannot call it Western civilization at all. And Russia, for the first time, doesn't really give a damn. Especially the majority of Russians, they are like, okay, you hate us that much, just go kill yourself, So, and again, that's what I say. That's what the real physical economy, massive physical economy, and tremendous military power give you. You are secured, basically. And you have enough deterrent to prevent people from doing stupid things. And in this particular case, I don't think so that Putin or his team or Kremlin in general are into basically saving Europe. Europe chose its own fate, completely on its own. And you know what? We all pay the price. Russia paid the price in 1990s when it elected twice the alcoholic and basically, the godfather and criminal, for all intents and purposes, Yeltsin. Russians paid dearly, but they learned. And they started to change things once Vladimir Putin came to power, got elected, and after that, you know what happened. And it was happening especially in earnest since 2010. And that's what is at stake here. Putin is not going to, sacrifice Russia or Russian interests for helping people who hate Russians and with their guts and think that Russians owe them something. Russia owes Europe zero, exactly zero. And if not for the Red Army, Europe would have been done in 1945. And the fact is, it was essentially in 1941, because for people who do not understand and do not know real history of the 20th century, it has to be understood that Red Army in 1941 fought not just Germany, it fought the unified forces of Western, not only, but Western Europe. And, I mean, did anybody even try to look at it from the Russian point of view? Many did, but they are basically then removed, they are silenced, and they're not allowed to talk. So, and in this particular case, I have to arrive to the conclusion that Vladimir Putin doesn't really want to save Europe anymore, because evidently, especially on the level of intel services, on the level of intellectuals, Russia and the Russians, they can see that basically the process in Europe are irreversible into short to mid-term perspective. And how the trend will change, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I mean, Europeans voted for that themselves. They chose it. They wanted to feel, holier than thou, and for some reason, they didn't understand how they lost it all. And again, United States, hey, give in this particular segment, which is very tactical. It's not even strategic. It's a very tactical thing that United States at this stage owns Europe, and it's going to squeeze and kill the European industries. And if they want to call Russia and ask her to help, I think so. The times when you could come to Russia and say, hey, buddy, just help me out on this one, or, this or that, and Russia say, yeah, sure. No, now it's just the way it is. It's the basically conversion to ruble as the resource and gold currency of the world. And in the latest news, India now actually demands almost, acceleration of the setting up and increase in the rupee-ruble trade between Russia and India. And the same goes that Russians have been telling China, which obviously China is now much more receptive to this, to increase the share of the ruble-yuan trade with China. And number of trades, including the oil, have been made already in yuans and rubles. So that's what is at stake here. And is it sad? For me it is sad in many respects, because I am in many respects a European and Western man. But here's the issue. That's what many people still cannot grasp. They cannot understand what is going on. What we call today a combined West is not West anymore. Because basically if follow the traditional, well, it's plus minus, it's always kind of like, vicinity. But late Roger Scruton, for all his hatred of Russia and Russophobia, he was actually correct. That when he stated and gave definition of the Western civilization, that the Western civilization was the civilization in whose foundation was the God of Israel, Greek philosophy, and Roman law. That's it. That's what defines it. Some people say, like Patrick Armstrong, that he had people who spoke Latin, that's West. Well, true, but then again, Western civilization was primarily Christian civilization. What we have today is the post-Christian West, totally lost in the this complete mayhem of the homicidal and suicidal ideologies and economies which do not work. It had its chance in 1945. It blew it. And I think so Russians who love to think a little bit longer term, I think so they understand. And so does understand Vladimir Putin. And that is why there will be no any more concerted effort from Russia in trying to save European civilization, despite the fact that Vladimir Putin in 2017 at Valdai Conference, he was talking about preserving European civilization. But European civilization is not preserved anymore in the Western Europe. It is really fascinating for me to admit that mostly European civilization is basically being preserved in Russia, including its traditional values. And now, basically, what Europeans failed to produce, with obvious understanding that some kind of middle-of-the-road, golden middle economy between free enterprise, but also the government control of the strategic industries is being forged in Russia. And last numbers and last news about nationalization, yeah, Russian government gets a lot of strategic industries back under its wing. And this is a very positive process. Russian people love it, and including they love what London did in terms of expropriating all those fancy yachts from so-called Russian oligarchs. And they don't even understand. They think Russians are insulted by that. No, Russians applaud this and, just expropriate more, So that's my kind of talk for today. That's what was needed to be kind of discussed. And again, for those who can afford it, support me please on Patreon, and of course subscribe to my channel. And I'll be talking to you later, guys, and have the nice rest of the week until you'll see my face again. Bye bye.